Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. I'm going to get this started early on Friday, August 1st, but this video is probably not going up to Sunday or Monday. I don't know which. They're going to make it tomorrow and Saturday. Maybe it goes up on Sunday. You know, there's a lot of stuff I cover here that has no bearing. You know, it could be like the butterfly effect, where one of these, minor incidences creates a chain reaction and leads to something that actually affects our lives in a way that nothing's going to be the same again. But this story is one of those stories where that's a possibility. And this isn't a butterfly effect. This is, a pathway to nuclear war.
We have some breaking news from the president, who just announced he is repositioning nuclear submarines around Russia in response to what he called inflammatory statements from the former Russian president. Trump just posted, quote, based on the highly provocative statements of the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, who is now the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, I have ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just words. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences.
you know, I mean, really, Donald?
Hope this will not be one of those instances.
Thank you, Wade. He said, thank you for this attention to this matter. Now, the problem with this is, thank you for your attention to this matter. They have nuclear weapons too. So if we launch, they launch, right? And some of those things are going to hit America. Some of those things are going to hit Russia. Some of them will be shot down. But then we're in nuclear war. So Donald Trump just took an action to, he's fucking bragging about, and I mean, he talked about this. One of the things that he said that was smart when he was running for president in 2016, he said, they asked him, he said he had a foolproof plan to get rid of ISIS, which was, I don't know whether he knew this or not, but since ISIS was an American asset, it was just not order them to do anything anymore, right? But they said, what's the plan? He goes, I'm not going to tell you the plan. That's stupid. It won't work, right? And I don't know if he even had a plan, but that's, a good answer. But saying this kind of shit where you're bragging and you're announcing what you're doing where everyone thinks you're a fucking joke, right? America's ripe for the picking. And, the only thing he has here is nuclear threat, because nuclear war is bad for everybody. Everybody knows it. Like, nuclear war is bad for, it's a zero-sum game, right? There's no winner in a nuclear war. Like, it just, everyone's fucked. The whole world's fucked. And so, that song by Sting, I hope the Russians love their children too. That song about the whole possibility of nuclear war.
He's apparently referring to Medvedev's statements recently criticizing Trump's foreign policy and appearing to reference a nuclear strike. I want to bring in retired Army Colonel Jack Jacobs, MSNBC military.
So, we have the ability to strike them anyway. So repositioning the subs doesn't do shit. It's just a bravado move by Trump. But, like his morons, and Trump himself believes that they're just going to win, and, because he's delusional. And, that he'll back down, whatever it is, right? But Trump's a fucking buffoon.
Military analyst Jack, what signal is Trump trying to send here? What do you make of this back and forth?
Well, we have to remember what probably generated all this from Medvedev in the first place. I mean, first of all, as an aside, the tendency to shoot from the hip, and has done many times in the past. And this may be one of those times, but
whatever. He's a Russian version of Trump. Okay, greetings. Today is the 2nd of August, Saturday, August 2nd, I guess. So I saw this on TV yesterday, that they don't have it on YouTube, but they have it on CNN.com. And I was going to segue right into I already started the video yesterday, and I got this piece about Kamala Harris, which is kind of funny. But this thing's a little bit more important. I already started this thing with Trump and the nuclear subs, right? Where there is an act that is, a movement to a nuclear war. So there are things that happen that are a movement to World War III, right? Things that are happening with Russia, America, the Ukraine, Israel, some of these other things. Economic things, right? Even the tariffs and things like that, whatever they might be. Things that are moving towards World War III. But then there is actual moving of nuclear missiles and talk of nuclear war, right? It's something different. And Trump got into this with this guy here. Let's start here for the first part here.
President Trump is issuing a rare threat of nuclear escalation against Russia, saying that he's ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be repositioned in response to, quote, provocative statements made by Russia's former president, Dmitry Medvedev.
He was talking about nuclear. When you talk about nuclear, we have to be prepared, and we're totally prepared.
Trump first made this announcement online, saying this step was just in case Medvedev's foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. It was not immediately clear if Trump was referring to subs with nuclear weapon capabilities or merely nuclear-powered subs. Of course, the current deputy chairman of the Russia Security Council and former president had made a reference on Thursday to Russia's Soviet-era system capable of launching retaliatory nuclear strikes after Trump told him to, quote, watch his words. The two have been trading verbal attacks since Monday when Trump slashed his deadline for Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine. There's been no sign that Putin is listening. However, last night you saw Russia launching its deadliest single attack on Ukraine's capital this year, killing at least 31 people after striking an apartment block. My source tonight is John Bolton, Trump's former national security advisor. And Ambassador, it's great to have you here because obviously the former president doesn't actually have the power to launch Russia's nuclear weapons here. I mean, for people who don't know, he's basically the Kremlin's online troll in recent days. But I wonder if you believe that President Trump's actions were warranted here.
No, I don't. I think it's very risky business for a lot of reasons. Most significantly, it seems to reveal Trump doesn't really understand how our nuclear navy works and what their plan of operation is. As for Medvedev, it's true he's a former Russian president, a former prime minister, in fact, always subordinate to Vladimir Putin. Right now, the position he holds is equivalent to Deputy National Security Advisor in the United States. And it's just really very ill-advised to have the president responding to somebody like that, whatever they're tweeting on whatever subject. Even if somebody should respond to him, it shouldn't be the president.
So there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, let's start with John Bolton. I dislike John Bolton as much as anybody in the political sphere. He's a warmonger. He's really pro-Israel Zionist. He's the neocon of the neocons, and those neocons were horrible, right? Horrible people. And he's just always wanted war with Iran and all these other, neocon goals. And, like a warmonger. He's got that porn stash. And Trump, he was part of Trump's team for a while, right? I like Trump a lot better than I like John Bolton. But John Bolton's 100% correct here. And John Bolton's a war hawk. He loves war. He wants to push for war. He was pushing for the whole Ukrainian thing with the Russians. He was pushing for all these things, right? He's always been a warmonger. So, the fact that Trump is doing something like this and this warmonger is against it, where Trump is, talking tough to Russia, and John Bolton's anti-Russia, big Russia person, pushing the agenda against Russia. And so the first part is, and the other thing is that during Trump's first term, I loved when he tweeted in the middle of the night, because the presidency is a joke. They have the whole, the sacredness of the presidency and our political process. And, the presidents have always been liars, my lifetime. They've always been pieces of shit. There's nothing, it's unsavory. It's just politics. It's gross, Washington, D.C. And they do all these things with pomp and circumstance. They roll out all this stuff like how great we are, how great the office of the presidency is, how important the president is. And, we've had some really dumb presidents. We've had they've all been bad people in one way or another. But, they just all pretend. They all fake. They're all posers. They all do the stuff that I'm going to show you with Kamala Harris. She's she's the worst one at it. Talking points and, not being authentic and these things. And Trump came in, he was tweeting about like bullshit stuff in the middle of the night. That was great. Like it just, because it made the presidency like what it is. It's just a scumbag sitting there, narcissistic scumbag, and not just Trump, all of them. And so I like that about Trump. But, now in his second term, when he's clearly deteriorating mentally and he's got a chip on his shoulder and he's got he feels like he's got carte blanche because of the Supreme Court ruling that president isn't held accountable for his stuff. Remember that Obama thing that he was pushing last week? It's gone. Let's just note that, right? He was saying Obama, he tried to push this Obama thing. American people didn't give a shit. Republicans, his base, didn't give a shit. But the president is flailing. He's just flailing all over the place. He's like, he's just like in a tizzy. And he shouldn't be responding to this guy about nuclear war, and he shouldn't be doing it in a way where he's conducting a Cold War on Twitter, right? This guy's baiting him. And what Bolton was saying, which is true, is this guy isn't Putin. Like, this guy's Putin's puppet. Putin's doing this to provoke Trump. Like, Putin knows that Trump's a child. I mean, he's just, he's a child, right? Like, he's just tweeting in the middle of the night. He doesn't know what's going on. He's arrogant. He's like a little fucking, little Lord Fauntleroy, in this corner, not listening to anybody and thinking he knows better. Just no experience, no knowledge, limited capacity to make sound judgments. I mean, almost no capacity. Kind of a loser and a failure in his life. And just a guy who's been able to, he's got one real good quality. It's not necessarily good quality, but it's an asset, where he's able to talk certain people into things, into believing about him, and, for some period of time, like a grifting ability to sell himself. And, he's done that fairly well. And in a time when Americans really want that bravado, at least these Republicans. And so, Trump shouldn't be responding to this guy. This guy isn't even on the same level as Pete Hegseth, right? This guy is just out there or Putin's put him out there. He's obviously battling with Trump for some reason. So Trump gets into a Twitter battle with this guy. Trump ignores almost everything. Like he's not concerned about the Epstein files, that is eroding his presidency for obvious reasons. Like but he's getting into this with this guy, right? He's floundering. And it's really fucking bad, right? It's just it's not something he should be doing.
But more fundamentally, what Trump may not be understanding here, in which the Kremlin could be misreading, is how the ballistic missile nuclear submarines that we have operate and how they function and serve basically as our second strike capability in the event of a nuclear war. The Ohio-class submarines, the ones that carry the ballistic missiles, don't sit around in port. They're out in a complex, obviously highly classified schedule on what are called extended deterrence patrols. That is to say, a sufficient number of them are in position right now to retaliate against a Russian nuclear attack. That's why they're put out there, so they don't have to go anywhere. They're already there and are hopefully undetectable, so that a Russian or later a Chinese first strike can't take them out at the beginning. So to say he's going to move those kinds of submarines anywhere indicates he doesn't know how they work right now.
This is really bad because, the Kremlin, they know what John Bolton knows. They know what I know, right? They know what everyone else knows about Trump. I mean, all the leaders do. And Trump has a powerful country and a powerful military, but he's a dope, and he's like just a child, and just all these things. And they know how to work him. Now, Trump doing something like this shows that he doesn't know what he's doing, and that people aren't handling him and stopping him from tweeting in the middle of the night and making this and escalating this thing. Because what Bolton just said is these subs are on a schedule already. And so Trump's saying, I'm moving them in position, which is, at the very least, they might be able to detect where the subs are moving and be able to strike first to the subs if they wanted to, first strike type of situation. So like it's just he's giving away he shouldn't be doing this. Like this is something you want to be secretive. You want to maybe make sure that Russia knows that you're willing to do this, right? Because this is all about deterrence, where both sides want to make sure that the other one knows that they'll has the capability of striking back. But Trump not knowing what's going on, and he has a defense secretary in Pete Hegseth, who is a deeply flawed person who doesn't have any real. I mean, he's a low-ranking guy in the National Guard. He wasn't a part of the Pentagon. He wasn't part of the military strategy, and he has huge personality deficits. He's an alcoholic, a womanizer. And he's cheats on his wives, all the things that he's done, right? He's a real piece of shit. He was on Fox News, and you see the guy's got a lot deep insecurities, and again, Trump hired him because the guy likes Trump. Trump likes people who like him. Trump hires people who like him. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. So, this is bad. Like, this is fucking really, this is really fucking bad, right? I mean, we're going to get the Kamala Harris thing. I wish I already, made the next part of the video, which you're going to see yesterday. Like how fucked up that is. So, we didn't have much of a choice. We never really do, but this is a time where shit's getting real. In the Whispers of the Brighter World messages, these prophecies, in 6 months, there's supposed to be a big event that is hinted that it is a nuclear event. Some kind of, it doesn't say specifically, but it says that nuclear war will end this world, in various prophecies, and they're supposed to be something that, is a catalyst in 2025 and 2026. And so, with that in mind, because for me, that's like a legitimate source. And with that in mind, this is the kind of thing where having Trump in the fucking White House, because Trump is just that kind of guy that would, push for something like this and make it happen. They just put this up on CNN YouTube, so I got the first piece from their website, CNN.com, whatever. I had to search, but I thought they would have this up immediately because this is huge news, and next part's even bigger. Somehow I turned this on last night. I was like, holy fuck, right?
Do you think anyone in his national security team is discussing this with him?
I have no idea. I certainly know from my own experience that you could find a tweet coming out any hour of the day or night on some national security issue that came directly from Trump. So it's possible that's what happened here. I hope somebody...
See, John Bolton worked for Trump, and Trump now calls him like stupid or whatever. Like, I think he calls him stupid, because John Bolton was trying to tell him shit. John Bolton sucks. Like I say, he's a warmonger, but he's not stupid, right? He knows his shit about this stuff. And so, Trump gets rid of all these people that will tell him no and tell him, he's got things wrong. And he doesn't there's times in your life, and maybe you're like this for a lot of things, where somebody's talking to you. We all have these things, right? Where somebody's talking about something you don't care about and have no interest in. And you just have to sit there and you're thinking about something else. You're tuning somebody out, right? Or you just don't like somebody and they talk to you and you have to have a relationship with them, co-workers, even your spouse, whatever it is. You just tune them out. Like you're not hearing, you're not listening to them. Whatever. They've done something and you tune them out. Tuning them out is a phrase that people use because it's something that people do, right? We tune people out. And we tune certain things out. Like people that are your anti-truth or sheeple people that you start to talk to and relatives, and you can see they're tuning you out. They're not listening. No, nothing's going in, right? And so Trump tunes everything out. Like he doesn't want to hear. And he has limited places where he gets his news from. And oftentimes it's very random. And, the things he cares about always have to do with him. And when he cares about something, it's the part of the thing that has to do with him. How he looks, how he's being talked about. It always comes back to him. So, Trump isn't capable of doing military type of operations where the operation is bigger than you. You know, whatever. And again, I'm not a big military person. I'm not, I dislike all these things. But the way that the military works and foreign policy works is that it has almost nothing to do with you. And, they're not insulting you. Like, this guy, Trump is going back and forth with this guy. And it's about a personal issue for Trump. And this guy's working Trump on Putin's behalf. This guy he's Medvedev or whatever his name is. He's working Trump, right? And like they're doing this purposefully. And Trump is escalating the situation because he didn't like what this guy tweeted, right? Or, the equivalent to tweeting, right? So, this is totally Trump.
From the Pentagon, who understands the disposition of the nuclear force, explains this to Trump at some stage. And as I said, while the ballistic missile submarines are core to our second strike capability, they are also perfectly capable of being part of a first strike on Russia. So you could see people in the Kremlin, obviously always nervous about our capabilities, believe that Trump is trying to insinuate that he may be considering a first strike, which is even more dangerous.
Yeah. Well, and this.
See, we have to hope that Putin is mature enough and restrained enough in understanding like the implications of nuclear war better than Trump, right? Like that's the only thing you can hope for here, because Trump is, again, they're paranoid over in Russia, and they have war hawks over there, and there are a lot of people in both governments, in both militaries that, some part of them wants to go nuclear. It's just there. There's always those people, right? You see those people in every, TV movie kind of thing about this kind of thing. There's always some people, these war hawks, guys like John Bolton that are very, they want to get into war. But even John Bolton here is showing some restraint and being, smarter about this. And Trump talking shit about this and calling attention to these subs, they might read it as he's ready for a first strike, which, if they're like, well, first strikes are inevitable, why don't we be the first strikers? Like this is how fucking stupid Trump is. Like, you have to hope that the Russians are better. Like right now, you have to hope every other leader in the world is somehow better than Trump. And they're just managing him, handling him like he's a little fucking toddler, right? Joe Biden was already being handled by his own people. That's the difference between Trump and Biden and Kamala Harris. And again, these people weren't good people. He did have neocons around him, Joe Biden. And he did a lot of bad shit. They did a lot of bad shit using Joe Biden as a puppet. But Trump is just fucking, like I said, when he got elected, we didn't know what he was going to do. And nobody did, including Trump. Like, no one knew what he was going to do because he changes. Like, he gets limited information and he makes bold acts. He acts boldly. And I didn't know he'd be this bad. Like, this was, unpredictable. Like, Trump's kind of unhinged now. And then the stuff that's happening with fucking, the whole Epstein thing. So, this is fucking bad, right? Like, this is bad. It's much bigger than any of these other things. And, it's escalating toward World War III. And if Russia, and I know China certainly wants to take America down, this is the best fucking time. Trump has a bunch of dopes around him, yes men, and he's like, and people who are incapable of doing their jobs. You have an education secretary who's married to Vince McMahon, a scumbag, like just a bad influence on kids. And she's in charge of the education department, knows nothing about it, it's never worked in education, just does it a fucking nightmare. She calls AI A1, doesn't even fucking know that shit. Like he's got all these people that are incompetent, Pam Bondi, these just remedial people who are above their head in jobs that are a lot worse because Trump is provoking everything. And a war secretary that's just a complete dope and narcissist, and all these people are showmen. Trump like people who are good in front of a camera, but are people that he considers beautiful people, but who are just empty shells that have nothing inside, and aren't willing to stand up to him. And he's just unhinged and ready to go, and he's deteriorating mentally. And so this is fucking bad, right? This is, like can easily escalate into something. And Trump is, so takes things so personally and so, doesn't understand consequences. Because, when someone goes bankrupt and just keeps on bouncing back, like he doesn't realize when he runs America into the ground and he provokes these things, there's, these are forever consequences. Like America will never be the same again. America can't file Chapter 11 and do a mulligan, and he can't get his Defense Department act like his caddies and move his golf ball when he makes a bad shot. This is like real life, right? This is like has real life consequences. Trump is probably the only president in history or person that would start World War III over a tweet feud, right? I guess there's plenty of people, but they probably wouldn't be able to be president. I mean, as bad as these other politicians are, they would not start World War III over a tweet feud, but Trump totally would. Okay, so this next piece on Kamala Harris I did yesterday on August 1st. And then everything after that will be stuff I am doing today, so just so people know. But here's the part about Kamala. So I got more Trump stuff. Look at her hands about to fucking swat this guy's head. He's getting Kamala. So Kamala Harris just like so fucking brutally bad. And let's just revisit how bad she was. So she's launching this fucking goofy book, which I covered with Don Lemon's. I got more John Lemon's stupidity in a second. Also coming up. But first this.
President Kamala Harris, the last Democratic nominee for president, appeared with Stephen Colbert for her first extensive interview since losing the election. It comes after her announcement that she will not run for governor of California. She did leave the door open for something, say, in 2028.
I'm hearing like you don't want to be part of the fight anymore.
No, oh, absolutely not. I am always going to be part of the fight.
Okay.
That is not going to change.
Woo! They really came in hard with the. I have another clip from MSNBC. I'm always going to be part of the fight. What are you talking about? You were never part of the fight. You were never part of the fucking fight. You were zero part of the fight. I mean, she was vice president, but that was, it had nothing to do with her. So she was a senator that walked into, she banged a guy that was 61 when she was 29. And then he hooked her up with multiple jobs where she made, hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars, and got these jobs she didn't deserve, all the way up to where she became a senator. And so he was the kingmaker of California politics. You guys remember all that shit. And then she ran for president, and she polled under 1%. They gave her a lot of love. Chris Matthews came out and said early on that the dream ticket was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, which was bizarre because nobody knew who she was. And then she got some love and attention. She went up to 12% of the polls. Like all of a sudden they were covering her like a legitimate candidate. Joe Biden was at 20. Bernie was at, 10, 12, whatever it was. And she shot up to the number 2 candidate. And Tulsi Gabbard, a number of people went after her. And she just looked like her laugh and her way of being pissed all the Democrats off. And she was polling under 1%. Now she had like a real political team, money behind her. She was a, rising star, that hopefully a hopeful star. Somebody they hope would turn into a star in the Democratic Party. But she imploded, and the Democrats didn't like her. Out of all the shitty candidates that are up there, there was, all these guys, Cory Booker and that guy Yang and whatever it was, some of those other guys, Marianne Williamson. I mean, they all lasted longer than she did. Like she had more money and more recognition, and she had a team behind her. But she imploded so bad that Democrats didn't even like her. And then Joe Biden was asked if he would have a woman run with him as vice president. He said, yeah, like he just came in and like fucking announced it. And they said, what about women of color? He said, sure, so he had a short list of people. He chose Kamala Harris because she was the one that was least likely capable of replacing him in case he shit the bed with his dementia, his Parkinson's. She was his like insurance policy. And she was like a failure and just, put out to like where she is now in no man's land, where no one was allowed to see her and she wasn't allowed to be out there embarrassing the fucking Democrats. And so she was never in the fucking fight, right? Then she ran for president, and it was a fucking disaster, other than her laundering money through the the $2 billion of donations she had to work with.
I am absolutely going to be part of the fight.
All right, CNN chief media analyst Brian Stelter.
So, all right, let me show you the other clips here.
Also setting herself up for another run. Stop one, friendly territory on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, getting a raucous ovation from the audience and getting a question the political world wants the answer to, now that she's not running for California governor.
Why are you saying this now? Are you setting yourself for a different office that might be?
Okay, so back when I covered Kamala, she wrote a book. I have some knowledge of like how you run like a psychological experiments. I mean, I never did those myself, but I understood, I'd study these things. I have a master's degree in counseling. And she had a couple of programs. One was like a little treatment center that sucked. It was like a camp for these kids who would commit crimes. And she was touting it as having inaccurate success rates. And it was only like 100 or 200 kids that went through it, right? And so she wrote a book about it. As district attorney she was in charge of the law enforcement in San Francisco, whatever that was, right? And then I think she was for all of California, but whatever it was, San Francisco, I think. And she did a few little things that were the kind of things you do to build your resume. And then she wrote a book about it, and she was on with Matt Lauer and interviewing, just like this thing with Stephen Colbert. And these people write books, these politicians write books, and then they go on shows, and that book that they wrote, kind of defines themselves, and they got little stories and anecdotes. It's all staged and political theater. And then they run for office. And she's dropped this book. She's given enough time to where Trump's imploding a little bit. And so it's kind of like a reminder, you could have chose me. But nobody feels that way. Like, I think, all the people that were on the bubble are hoping that she doesn't run again. Maybe they voted for Trump and they were Democrats or they were independents. But she's doing this because she wants to run for president again. Like, this is fucking obvious, right? This is the kind of shit that you do.
Recently, I made the decision that for now, I don't want to go back in the system. I think it's broken.
What the fuck are you talking about? You broke it, bitch, right? So Joe Biden broke it when when they rigged it for him against Bernie, which, and Hillary Clinton broke it when she helped break it when they rigged it for her against Bernie. So Bernie should have won twice. Then they broke it again when Joe Biden wasn't primaried. They didn't want Joe Biden campaigning as senile as he was, and people were starting to recognize that he had dementia, he had Parkinson's, or whatever it was that doctor said. And, he had stage 4 prostate cancer. So Joe Biden was like fucked in different ways, and they didn't want him campaigning. And so, that was broke then. And then when Joe Biden, they finally admitted that the guy was not up to the task and had that implosion, and they installed her without running any sort of a primary. And so she was just handpicked by the party. She was just picked. Joe Biden said, all right, I'm going to step down, but I'm leaving you with this bitch, because he was bitter. And then she ran. And so that was, 4 elections where there was, or 3 elections, 4 elections that were not democratic by the Democratic Party. And so that was breaking democracy. But then all the other ways that they've both been breaking shit, going after the truth community, the bullshit they pulled with COVID. And she has the balls to say the system's broken. The system's broken. It's broken. So she comes out with these goofy fucking talking points that they've tested. The system's broken. It's broken, I tells you. I don't want to go back in with a broken system. Well, you're the one that broke it. Also, you lost to fucking Trump. Like, you were the fucking patsy that lost to Trump. So, Jesus. It's a fucking broken system.
I want to travel the country. I want to listen to people. I want to talk with people. And I don't want it to be transactional where I'm asking for their vote.
Are you shitting me? Like, so these are the talking points and the shit that she said that nobody should believe. I mean, this is a canned audience that just applauds everything. But for her to come out and say that, I just want to talk to folks. I just want to go around the country and talk to folks without it being transactional. Like, what are you talking about? They have polls, they have data, they have fucking in the internet. You're gonna just drive. You're gonna go around from state to state, just talking to folks with not any. I'm not asking them for the vote. I'm not asking for your vote. I just want to talk to you. I just like to talk to folks, find out what's going on with the heartbeat of America, because you guys are fucking brilliant. You fucking Walmart going motherfuckers. You guys are fucking brilliant. You guys are so brilliant. Just I want to find out what you guys want me to do to solve somebody to do to solve the country, solve the problems of the country. I just want to get a feel for the heartbeat of America. I don't want any votes. Fuck, I'm just going to go around the country with my fucking, millions upon millions of dollars that I looted from you guys the first time in the last election when I money laundered it through fucking experts and shit that I overpaid. But I don't want any votes or anything. I'm not like running for political fucking office. I just like to going around talking to folks like I'm campaigning 4 years in advance of a fucking presidential run that the Democratic Party doesn't want me having any part of. But I just want to talk to folks. It's not transactional.
And it is important, I think, that in this moment where people have become so deflated and despondent and afraid.
Unburdened by what has been, right? Remember that? I can't remember the first part. I forgot the second part today. I was trying to remember it. Unburdened by what has been. These stupid things she says. That nobody talks that way. Her mom and dad were both professors at these pretentious California universities. Academic people. And academic people talk in a totally different way. They're totally out of touch, totally clueless. They're academic elitists. And, they're all into fucking, education and their status and their degrees and the papers they've written and the experiments that they've successfully done, these kind of things, right? Things that are, these books and shit that are written for other academics, so they are not written for the lay folk, right? And they're boring as shit and they're pretentious and they're the same kind of shit she's doing here. This is why no one connected with her. And it's not working now. Like, they haven't corrected this. Like, she doesn't fucking know. She doesn't fucking know how unlikable, how pretentious, how icky that is. Like, the reason you lost, the reason that, Democrats are losing is because you're not authentic. Trump is authentic. He's an authentic grifter. But he's still authentic. And then all this other stuff that's authentic. And you guys are still talking that way. Like, you're doing things that have already, it's like dead. You're like, it's a canceled show. And you're still fucking running. It's like you're showing up for work and acting on some show that's been canceled for 10 years. Like, you got to be authentic, right?
And afraid to be out there and to talk with folks and remind them of their power.
Holy shit. Remind them of their power. You lost. You lost. You got fucking trounced. And fucking, you totally deserved to lose because you sucked. And, remind them of their power, the power to donate to me, and I can launder their money and, do Ponzi schemes, electoral Ponzi schemes. I mean, she's just so fucking brutal. And she's still doing it. This is a moment where she's being a politician. She should just relax and be like, fuck you, I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to do my cackle. I'm going to do my fucking whole stick. And I'm not campaigning anymore. I'm just going to fucking unleash the fucking inner Kamala, the real Kamala. And people are not going to like that Kamala either, but it's going to be better than this Kamala. This is the one they said, all right, look, you're not likable. Like, knock off that laugh and, and do these other things. It didn't work, right? So at least be authentic. But you have no chance. You're not fucking going. You're not going to be president, right? No one's going to fucking vote for you. No one wants to see that shit again. When you lose to somebody like Trump, in the way that you lost, you're buried, right? Where's Hillary Clinton now, right? So you're not coming out of this thing. You're on a canceled show now with Stephen Colbert, a dead man walking that CBS is kicking to the curb with the rest of those fucking shitty late night shows that are losing money. Like, it's over. You're living in the past. That stuff doesn't work anymore. Nobody likes it. I don't care what people did before, right? Well, like someone like Kyrie Irving gets a lot of, grace from me because he did something kind of amazing by not getting the vax and just being like, fuck you guys. And just when everybody was coming down on him, like all the sports media and everyone's like, you got to get the vax and go play. And he was like, fuck you, I'm not doing it. And then when he said, there's other people who can stand up, like, because he's I mean, he didn't have to make any more money in his life. I mean, he lost a shit ton of money. But that was like a big thing. Like, I don't expect a lot from people in the show because they are surrounded by handlers and predatory people. Oftentimes they have big, issues themselves. They're part of it. So I don't expect anybody in the show to be stand up or do whatever. But, now that Trump's going full Trump, it's easy for the Democrats to go after him because that's all they do. Anybody's in Trump's circle, and not excluding Elon Musk, because whatever he did when he stood up for Trump was, personal and whatever. Elon Musk is, whatever. But anybody in Trump's circle that's standing up to him, or, and especially the big issues. The big issues would be World War III, number one, Gaza, number two, and Epstein, number three.
This morning, the global impact of the desperation in Gaza, where the pause to let some aid in continues, but the hunger is severe. Yesterday, an airdrop of aid landing in the sea. Palestinians risking their lives for a taste of food. The Israeli government...
Jesus Christ, look at that. They have to go out and fucking... because Israel's blocking everything off.
Said there is no starvation.
Like, people have to drop food in around Israel's blockade because they're trying to starve these people, right? Like, that's how fucked it is. They're going out. When I was we were in the flood, and then the after flood in Chennai, they had helicopters, and if you got enough people on your roof, they would drop shit like water and food, rice, whatever it was. People who were in the flood. So we went on top of our apartment building, and they had helicopters coming around dropping food on people. Where they could see there's a need. We didn't get any, but, we were better off than, like, some people. There wasn't too many people in our building. But, that's a little bit different because there's obviously a lot different because it's not a war-torn area. But, it was the fact that was the only way they could get food to people because of the flood and then the other aspects of it, right? And, of course, they could start rolling out trucks after the floodwater subsided in, like, 2 days. The flood was gone, and there was still problems. Everyone was still without power and without internet and all these things. It couldn't go anywhere, because everything, unless you left we ended up leaving the city altogether. And it took like 2 weeks to get everything back to functioning, right? So, but here they have Israel's preventing these people from getting food.
And said Hamas is behind the pain in Gaza.
They blame Hamas for everything, and Hamas is obviously their asset, right? Israel's running Hamas. Like, that's the only reasonable explanation.
Responsible for this tough reality? I answered, this is Hamas.
On his trip abroad, President Trump has spoken out yesterday.
So Hamas wants to starve. Hamas wants Israel to kill all the Palestinians and starve them, because that's what Hamas's actions are doing. Hamas is, this whole thing that happened, this October 7th thing by Hamas, has resulted in 100,000 Palestinians dead, Palestinians suffering without food, water, without internet and electricity, and it's hot as shit there. Like, they're living in rubble, right? The city's been decimated, and Israel's taken over the city. Israel is, which is what Israel's always wanted to do. So Hamas's actions has allowed Israel to do that. And now they're starving their own people, that Hamas is wanting them to starve their people. Like, Israel is, every time Hamas does something, there's a reaction that Israel wanted to do all along, right? Hamas is giving them permission to do all this stuff. And you're saying that Hamas isn't your asset? Because certainly the Palestinian people aren't like, hey, Hamas, you're doing great for us. Keep it up, right? No, they're getting fucking genocided and ethnic cleansed by Hamas's actions. Well, then Hamas must be a fucking asset of Israel, because Israel's getting what they want, right? The Palestinians are getting the opposite of what they want. And Hamas is the whole reasoning? Fuck that, right? That's stupid. Silly.
Discussing the First Lady's reaction.
She thinks it's terrible. And those are kids, whether they talk starvation or not, those are kids that are starving.
Saying the U.S. sent $60 million for food aid and will soon open its own food centers in Gaza.
We're going to get a lot of money to the area so they can get some food.
While home in the U.S., political fallout is growing. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Trump ally, writing, "It's the most truthful and easiest thing to say that October 7th in Israel was horrific and all hostages must be returned. But so is the genocide, humanitarian crisis, and starvation happening in Gaza." Israel has denied the...
So that, so Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Did Hamas do all this, right? Hamas is, and this is, surrounding area, all this fucking toxic dust and shit. I mean, these people are fucked. Like, they're just, this is like years off of all their lives. I mean, the people who don't die, they're going to suffer. And, there's carcinogens and all this shit that happens when you, the big thing of 9/11 was that toxic dust, right? The nuclear fallout that caused thyroid cancer and all that shit. I mean, so, Israel has mini nukes that can take down buildings and then release a lot of, harmful radiation. And so, like, these people, like, who knows what they're getting? Israel's blockaded it off so that nobody knows what they're doing in there. But it's all Hamas's fault. So Marjorie Taylor Greene has stood up to Trump on Epstein and this. And, she's been a dope. She's the opposite of it. She's the counterpart to AOC. But she's one of the few people that's willing to do this. Someone who claimed to love Trump and, all these things. But Trump's position on fucking Israel and Gaza, and then, of course, his Epstein thing.
Believe it or not.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has said that what is occurring there is a genocide. Do you agree?
Oh, it's terrible what's occurring there, yeah. It's a terrible thing. People are very hungry. The United States gave $60 million for food.
Okay, so before, remember, he said it was just bad luck. We got to move them out. They just have had bad luck living there. I mean, they just have such bad luck all the time. Bad shit's like, it's bad luck over there. We got to get them out of there and put them in some other country that doesn't want them and not their homeland, and fucking take that beachfront property with all the oil and gas, natural gas that are off the shore there, and turn that into a fucking resort and, resource, and maybe we'll give it to Israel. I don't know. Maybe we'll let Israel run it and, but then he gets into, so that's, it's bad, but then.
For food. And it's a shame because nobody, I don't see the results of it. And we gave it to people that in theory are watching over it fairly closely. We wanted Israel to watch over it. Part of the problem is Hamas is taking the money and they're taking the food.
It's totally Hamas's fault because they're the ones who want to starve the Palestinian people. And it wants Israel to win and Israel to get the it's Hamas's fault. They're the ones that want to have Palestinians starve. They're the ones who want to take over Gaza with a land grab when all their people, all the Palestinian people are gone. And they can, they'll be just Hamas holes and they'll have the whole land to themselves and Israel won't do anything about that. They're into the Palestinian people not having any food because, that makes total logical sense.
But we gave $60 million a couple of weeks ago. Nobody said anything about it. Nobody said thank you, but I didn't need the...
Nobody said thank you. Nobody said thank you for fucking backing Israel's policies in fucking Palestine and the Arab world, demonizing the Arabs in that area in various ways and killing over 1 million people in Iraq and taking out Gaddafi in Libya and just, being a piece of shit, the stuff that happened in Iran. No one said thank you for the $60 million we pumped in there after American weapons have been fucking bombing the shit out of fucking... No one said thank you. Like, this fucking... He's just lost it. Like, he's so about himself now. Like, he was asked about Marjorie Taylor Greene saying it's a fucking genocide, right? It's a genocide. And it is a genocide. It's also ethnic cleansing. And it's a land grab. And it's all fucking being orchestrated on something that Israel's planned for years. And this motherfucker is the only one who's so owned by them that he'll let him do anything, right? And then he gets into about, hey, we gave him some money. It's not your fucking money. I mean, it's not my... They don't owe me a thank you. Like, it's like, American taxpayer dollars, right? I mean, what, Israel says thank you for the $3 billion of fucking, welfare we give them every year for nothing in return? And Israel, but they say thank you, so that's the difference. They said thank you to me, so they like Trump. But no one over there said thank you, America. I mean, fuck this guy.
$1 million a couple of weeks ago. Nobody said anything about it. Nobody said thank you, but I didn't need to thank you. I just wanted the people to get fed, and we're helping out financially with
You wanted a thank you for that, for giving $60 million of money that you don't have anything to do with because you don't fucking pay taxes, and fucking bankrupt motherfucker. You're the one who brought up that why would a thank you be to you? You thank you that you would feed starving fucking people that are starving because of American weapons and American policies, that you'd fucking need a thank you. And then you say, I don't need a thank you. Then why the fuck you bring it up, you fucked up motherfucker, right?
situation. It's a terrible situation. So just to conclude, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank you for being here.
And he just fucking moves on. Just brutal. Holy shit, right? Okay, so is it the pie-faced lesbian I call him with who has a tinier mouth, him or Morning Joe? Like they're cartoon characters, right? Saturday Night Live did a thing where they said, let's go to Rachel Maddow, and it was Chris Hayes. Like they were saying he looked like Rachel Maddow, or she looked like him. Either way, pie-faced lesbian. He is one of the better ones at mocking Trump. He's smart, and he's good at doing this stuff. And so Trump, there's another story going on, which is, it's a minor story given all the other stuff because, there's a lot of this other stuff. But Trump got bad job numbers. And the person who did the statistics, Trump immediately said is gaming the books and fired her. She was a Biden person passed through by a Republican-controlled Senate and House or whatever, right? So she's not, she's not. The Republicans signed off on her, but he said that she purposely is sabotaging his job numbers, and fires her because he's saying he's politicizing the thing, which may be the case, but probably not. But Trump is definitely doing that. Like Trump is definitely putting in yes people that will cook the books and lie for him. And, I mean, this is, what it says here, this is a banana republic. That's an actual, that's what it's become because this guy is the ultimate, that kind of guy, right? Someone who's exploiting every flaw and every, pushing back on all the checks and balances and all the other stuff.
Today, Fox News commentators reacted in stunned silence to a brutal July jobs report that was way below market expectations. Crucially, the report also revised the previous jobs data from the last 2 months, which is standard practice. This happens a lot. It's a hard thing to measure. That turned out to be the worst part of today's report, right? So the revisions reduced job growth for May and June by a combined 258,000 jobs, like enormous revisions. Basically, what we have now is the worst 3 months of job growth since the pandemic. Worse than any 3 months under Joe Biden for his entire presidency. And how did Donald Trump respond to that bad news published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner?
So you know what I did? I fired her. Right. And
That was a great segue.
You know what? I did the right thing.
Why did you fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics?
Because I think her numbers were wrong. If any government...
Because I think her numbers were wrong. Now, Trump isn't a statistician, right? Like, he's not a math person. Trump, I don't think he does math. I don't think he has any math abilities. Like, he hasn't shown any kind of, even just remembering numbers. Like, there's politicians that go out and they have all the statistics and numbers. Remember how Joe Biden would get the wrong thing because, he'd forget the year or he'd say billion instead of million, which I do occasionally even here. But, like, there's people who are always citing numbers, and they're into the statistics and these types of things. But Trump isn't one of those people. He says, I think they're wrong. See, Trump gets the numbers, and then he's arguing against math. So either this woman was corrupt and she gamed the numbers. So she's been giving the numbers all these months, right? And she corrected her previous mistakes by reducing job numbers. Because this was her statistics. So she's saying that I got this wrong before because the numbers weren't all in. Like there's things that you search in terms of like births, like, birth rate. And you don't get the real great numbers going back until you go back to like 2023. Maybe now 2024 is coming in. But, it takes a while for all those, them to compile all that data and, to get the accurate number, right? So some things you won't know. They correct things that they thought, their projections or whatever. But Trump says, I think they were wrong. Of course, if, she'd still have a job if they were good job numbers. But his first thing to do is to fire the fucking mathematician first he should find out if those numbers are right. Like if he wants to double check her numbers and do some kind of a fucking, like he can have somebody go in there and do, accounting on what she's done. Put his own people in there and double check what she's doing, right? Which he, could have done before firing her. And then saying, because if the numbers aren't wrong, then she shouldn't be fired. like the only reason to fire her is she was politicizing this, which he doesn't have any evidence, just that he got bad news he didn't like. And this is the petty little fucking punk this guy is, right? Like a child. Because, even if he wanted to fire her, which he probably didn't think about her until he got these bad job numbers. It was a Biden person, and so he just made it about like that. And, and there's no indication that any of that shit's true. Like, it's so fucked up. Like, this is just bad shit that he's doing, right? Because he at least had to do some sort of review of her numbers. And, if he puts somebody in who's going to lie about the numbers, the American people are going to know that there's no fucking jobs out there. Like, they're going to know. It's not like it's something that fucking you can lie about when people can't find work. Like, that's where it really, it's not that the job numbers are down. It's that people can't find fucking jobs. And so he's just a fucking child, right? And a fucking bad child, like a little fucking impetuous little fucking little Lord Fauntleroy.
Official going forward is presenting data or information you don't like. Should they fear for their job?
I've always had a problem with these numbers. We need people that we can trust.
Why should anyone trust the numbers?
Well, that's
and
the
if
big
you're
thing. You're right. No, you're right. Why should anybody trust numbers?
Why should anybody trust numbers? You're right. Why should anybody trust numbers? I mean, we just always fucking get people in there to game the statistics and things like this, right? So this is fucking bad. Like, this is a bad thing. Like, given all the other shit, it's not fucking even a newsworthy story right now. Like, it's just so fucked up.
Hiring the people in charge of publishing accurate information in the economy is exactly the kind of thing that folks like us and many critics of Trump have worried about since Trump returned to office. I mean, this is the kind of dictator 101 playbook, right? Questioning the existence of empirical data, going after someone that gives you a statistic you don't like. Now we are 6 months in with a bad jobs report, and Trump is looking to cook the books clearly. Dan Coe served as chief of staff of the Department of Labor in the Biden administration. Jared Bernstein.
Okay, here's for these fucking guys. Like, you can get any living fucking people, right? Like, only got ghouls coming in. Like, we're so fucked. Like, we're so fucked. I mean, the people they bring in. But, I mean, and, like, they can't stop the guy. Like, there's supposed to be checks and balances, but no. The Republican Party should, this is what the Democrats did when they brought in Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I'm not blaming the Democrats exclusively, but this is their share in the blame. You had a senile president who had fucking Parkinson's, and you still wouldn't even acknowledge. MSNBC did an interview with a doctor. That's where you get the Parkinson's from. And the guy just, people who know. And this guy knows Parkinson's, and he said that a first-year medical student could, those symptoms that Joe Biden have, like the way he turned, like he turned his whole body instead of turning his head, and his gait, the way he walked, and all these other things that he did. Like, you could just tell the guy has Parkinson's. That it's, he has it. In the beginning, it's hard to do differential diagnosis between Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. But once it progresses, then they start showing different symptoms. And so he, that's what he was doing. But anyways, like, they just allowed a guy who clearly had cognitive issues be president, and were auto-penning, which is a true thing. And so, Now the Republicans are doing the same with Trump, where the guy's clearly gone, but no one's willing to stand up to him. And Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't standing up to him; she's just disagreeing with him. But like he's, I mean, we sent him $60 million, but they didn't say fucking thank you, right? Okay, so I was going to wrap the video up there. What happened was, I said that I was going to cover Don Lemon, so I'm going to do that because I know I said that in the first thing. I got some stuff. Jen Psaki got some more stuff on Epstein that I haven't looked at yet, but looks like it's. I watched a little bit of it, and there's one part I wanted to show at least. But I'm going to wait to do that till tomorrow. The Epstein thing is just not going away. But here, Don Lemon. This isn't about Epstein. This is about Don Lemon. Boom. It's kind of catchy. He didn't do this, though.
It is Friday, and this is the Don Lemon Show. Lemon Live at 5.
He's got all. He always wears his own merch. Like, does anybody else just wear their own merch that you guys know of? Like, I don't know any. I don't watch these, various YouTubers. But in the clips I've seen, I've never seen anybody wearing their own merch. I have a Pockets of the Future, with my image with my dogs and the tinfoil hats. I have a mug. And I use it. I get hot water and I put it in my water pick. So, I had to buy some of the merch. And I have a tumbler somewhere. And that's it. Like, I don't have any of the other things. I don't wear any of the shirts. And not that, it's my picture on there, things that I've said that would be weird. But, I barely talk about it. And, he wants this Lemon Nation thing. It's not a Lemon Nation, but he's got a fan base. And he's dumb as fuck. Like, he is, to me, the dumbest person ever on CNN, MSNBC, or Fox. Like, literally just stupid. Like, clueless, oblivious, right?
Yeah. I wish I could send you off on a Friday with some really great news about, perhaps it'll be great news to some of you, depending on
Got my lemon drop martini.
How you feel about this president, because he is unraveling. But when you consider that he is in charge of our country, it's extremely problematic. I will say to you as I start today, this is a break glass moment. We are in danger. Emergency, emergency. And I'm not kidding. And
he's not kidding about the emergency. Like, when he said emergency, you don't want to kid about something like that.
I am not. Someone said, "Oh my God, he's on time." Thank you. Thanks, Jay. He's working from fucking home. There's no commute. And he can't start his show on time. Like, people, he's still got a fucking, like, that's just, how can you, what could possibly be the problem for starting your show on time? If you can't do it, then you do it like an hour later or whatever. Just like, so he has a Lemon Live he does every day. And the key to that is that you start on time. Like, that's a big thing. People show up for the live and they want to comment or whatever. And he can't fucking do that on time because he's working from home. Because he's got to get dressed. Not being hyperbolic. And I'm not the only one saying this. Even the people who are the biggest supporter of this president, this calls for you know what, y'all. I'm just saying.
Our country is in the shitter. Is that a margarita he's drinking with salt on the glass?
Rhymes with Largarita.
Nothing. Margarita isn't a real word. Margarita is a real word, but not Largarita. People say, "What's a Largarita? Is it a margarita with lager, some kind of a beer?" It's not a real word. There's nothing that rhymes with margarita. At least in terms of the whole word. You can get something that has a "ita" on the end that rhymes with it.
Even the people who support him the most are
scratching their heads. And one can only say that he has Epstein derangement syndrome. I believe that this Epstein thing is driving him even battier. I've been telling people, you know what? Donald Trump is certifiable. I mean, we are...
So listen to all the things he's going to say, because I watched this beginning part, and I know he's going to cover it, because watch what he's going to say. So he's saying he has Epstein derangement syndrome. He's certifiable, which, you know, would imply that you could put him on a psychiatric hold, right, or something like that. You know, certifiable, like, what does it even mean? Certifiable that he's crazy? Well, that's everybody. Everybody you can diagnose with something. That's how the fucking psychology works, the DSM-5 works. There's a diagnosis in the book for every person. You go to see a counselor, and they can diagnose you with something, even if it's an adjustment disorder. Adjustment disorder is like the thing that you would give to somebody if you had to receive insurance payments. Like if I was able, I never got a license because of, like, you know, whatever, like a whole different story. But let's say I saw clients and that I could take insurance. So I would have to justify to the insurance company that this person deserved counseling. So I'd have to diagnose them with something, or a counselor, you know, psychiatrist, psychologist has to diagnose you with something. They have to give you a diagnosis, because otherwise, why are they in treatment? Like, you have to be fucked up, because it's not the system's fucked you up and you're a sane person dealing with a fucked up system. The insurance isn't going to pay for that. You have to be fucked up, right? You have to have some kind of psychological diagnosis. And so the adjustment disorder is a temporary thing. So that's what I would say to people. And you can get 12 sessions and then say, oh, well, that didn't work, we need another 12. But adjustment disorder means that you're going through something that you're having trouble adjusting to. But it doesn't pathologize you. But if you give somebody a manic depressive diagnosis or an access to borderline, narcissistic borderline personality disorder, something like that, that ain't going away, right? You're labeled with that. And then, you know, if that becomes public knowledge, if things get hacked, which, you know, I mean, it's just there, and people like to wear their diagnosis. You tell somebody, yeah, you got borderline personality, and the person goes around thinking they have it, and maybe they don't. Like, you know, and the whole psychological model is problem-centered. It's not solution-centered, so it's like you have that problem for the rest of your life. And that problem might not be your actual problem. You might be misdiagnosed, right? Or only a partial diagnosis. It's not like exact science. And so Don Lemon's saying he's certifiable. Like, what the fuck does that even mean, right? Does he know what that means? Like, what does that mean to him? And so then he said he's got Trump derangement. Oh, he's got Epstein derangement syndrome. So he's just making shit up, right? That's the point here, because he's going to say something here.
And the reason that we are feeling the way that we feel, and same as we knew it last time, is because of the chaos in his brain and because of how erratic he is. And I think that he is certifiable.
The chaos in his brain. He just said he had chaos in his brain, right? So this guy never confronted Joe Biden, who had, you know, like I said, I should take some clips of that so I have a meme. I should go back to that. You know, maybe I will, maybe I won't. But it's a thing that, you know, this MSNBC did, where they interviewed a guy who was an expert in Parkinson's. And it's the time that they found a Parkinson's doctor went to the White House like 8 times. And they blamed it on one of the Marines who was guarding, was providing some kind of security there, that the doctor was coming into the White House to see him. They were like saying this guy has Parkinson's, which is a fucked up thing to do. They're selling out a soldier, you know. Oh, there's a soldier in there that has Parkinson's, but I don't think I know if they gave this name out. But it was obviously Joe Biden. So this guy said, yeah, he has Parkinson's. And that a first-year medical student could diagnose it. And so this person down here, remember for 5 months, my favorite drink, a Largarita. And so fucking, you know, he has dementia. Joe Biden had dementia, and everybody fucking knew. I knew it when he was running. Like I said, it like we could see it in 2019, and they all saw it. They all should know. And he was also a groper. I mean, he was a piece of shit plagiarizer. He was just the fucking worst, Joe Biden. And they fucking ignored that and gaslit. And this guy's one of the worst at it. Like, just slathering all over Joe Biden. So for him to come out and say Trump's certifiable, yeah, Trump is a fucking nightmare. Like, I say the same things. But when I say it, it's fucking, it carries more weight because I'm not lying to you about Joe Biden, right? Like, you can't pretend Joe Biden was perfectly fine and then say Trump is certifiable.
And it is being reflected in the country as it was last time. And do you remember?
I got my hat and fan today.
Remember? There are two things that I remember. One, when
certified crazy.
And they said enough of the misinformation. They took him off of Twitter. I was like, thank goodness, because I did not have to get an alert every single time something happened or people reported something. The news would change every single time he tweeted something. Now,
so that's what censorship is for, that you don't have to get an alert. You could have just got rid of those alerts, right? You could have unsubscribed from Trump's chat from his Twitter. Thank God that they took him off of Twitter because I didn't have to get alerts anymore. Yeah, so it was okay to censor him. That Joe Biden was pushing for these companies to censor, which is part of the reason Trump's president now, because everybody's pissed off at fucking not being able to speak their mind on social media because Biden went in and threatened them. And the social media giants all turned on the Democratic Party because of that bullshit, because they were being censored and it was hurting their business model. Is that what we're fucking talking about, you moron? Like, like we should be censored. Like, what happens when Trump censors you? And, we can't get access to this great content, right?
He does the same thing on Truth Social. And then the other time was when he left office. And we were like, finally, some sanity.
Joe Biden was a picture of sanity.
Long national nightmare was over.
It's over. It was over.
And now our long national nightmare is back, or part 2 is here. It is.
Like he's trying to think things to say. Like his wheels are fucking turning inside this stupid little fucking hat he has, right? This is what happens when a malignant narcissist loses all control. Don't talk about Don like that.
French Life 247, batshit crazy. Now I'm going to tell you.
There it is. This is batshit crazy. Look at her bringing it.
Again, I don't like just to. I like to give you facts. Okay.
This is the part. So I watched up to this part. I like to give you facts. None of those things are facts. You don't have any diagnosis that you can say he's certifiable, calling him batshit crazy, all these things. I like to give you facts. No, you don't. You're saying these things. You're not somebody who's capable of diagnosing him. First of all, you didn't say about Joe Biden. I like to give you facts. I don't just like to say shit like name call him certifiable. That everything you've done up to this point, other than the fact that you've tried to rhyme margarita with largarita, has been about how Donald Trump is something that's opinion-based and subjective. Now, he is unhinged, and he is these things. But that's an opinion, right? Like, people can disagree with that opinion. It's factual in that it's a real thing. Donald Trump is losing it. And he's a piece of shit. Yeah, he is that. He's fucked up. He's got, fucked up personality. He's certainly narcissistic. But he doesn't have a diagnosis. Like, if he had a narcissistic personality diagnosis, then you could say it's factual, like if he had a conviction. So these aren't facts. None of these things are facts. Whether they're right or not, yeah, they are maybe facts in the sense that they're right, but they're not. As a journalist, you can't call them facts, right?
Because here's what has happened. Let's put up some of the things. So, Trump got the bad jobs numbers this morning. Terrible jobs numbers. So then he puts out, what he does is he gets upset and he fires the labor statistics chief for just reporting the numbers. All this person does is crunches numbers and shuffles in a piece of paper and then puts them out.
Is that what they do? Is that factual, Don?
I shouldn't all, but I'm encapsulating that.
You don't know what they do. You don't fucking know what they do. Don't say you know what they fucking do, because she revised her numbers from 2 months ago. Like, there's a difference between him and Chris Hayes. Like, Don Lemons was in Rachel Maddow's time slot, but Chris Hayes is like I think 8 o'clock, and he was on at 9 o'clock. Don Lemon's, and as bad as Chris Hayes and Rachel Maddow suck, they wouldn't like just babble like Don Lemon's doing. And now he doesn't have CNN looking over his shoulder and having some quality control. He's just like fucking, he's fucking goofy, and he's like a Trump, right? He's narcissistic. Remember, like someone said about Rachel Maddow, and he said, and Don Lemon, like he called him, he didn't like it that the person was talking about Rachel Maddow, who was former competition, but he got fired for sucking, right? And for being a Trump-like person, like not knowing what he's talking about, right?
Does it imply that the BLS commissioner, longtime federal employee, Erica McIntyre, is that right?
I doubt it.
McIntyre. Okay, that's right, McIntyre. Manipulated the data for political purposes. Now, what would be those political? This
You
is
can't even get
Epstein.
extreme, right? He's in New York City. Is the internet bad in New York City? Anyway, so I don't know if there's anything more to see here. There's a commercial up here. Look, there's this commercial.
It's $15 a month at mintmobile.com/download.
He's got fucking paid advertisement. Mint fucking mobile.
Away. So I am concerned about the labor market, that we need to get more people in trades and in skilled.
All right, so that's Don Lemon's. I can't do any more of this. But here, this is Don Lemon's giving you the facts. But the fact that Don Lemon has an audience, I mean, it's just bad. Anyways, let me wrap this up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the apocalypse and the ascension, and we'll have a blessed day and be grateful.